Hello peeps, welcome back to Big Deck Player with me, Matt Sparks. On today's video we're going to take a look at a balanced control warrior? Question mark? This one I found on Hearthstone.com and is very similar to some of the other control warrior decks I've played in the past. Let's take a look at the deck listing. It's a pretty expensive deck, although by now, if you've been playing the game for a while, you probably have a lot of the legendaries. If you're still missing some of them, this is a very expensive deck, and I'm not sure how viable it will be for you. But we'll go through the deck, and then you can take a look and judge for yourself. So we start off with a couple of Execute, destroy a damaged minion. It's so effective and can be so useful in combo with some of the other spells and minions that you have in this deck. So Execute is great for, especially for like big threats late game. Execute is amazing for that. 2 shield slams, deal 1 damage to a minion for each armor you have. This card. Because sometimes when you're playing control, you can generate a lot of armor. And I've been able to use shield slams in the past to do anywhere between 8 to 15 damage to a minion. So shield slams are amazing, especially when you combo them with some of the other, again, spells and minions in this deck. 2 fiery war axe, because what would a warrior deck be without a fiery war axe? We have a cleave, which does 2 damage to 2 random enemy minions. Early game, this is fantastic because it can pretty much clean out the board. If you've got a couple of minions on the board, especially like against shamans who might have a couple of totems out, cleave will just get rid of them. It's great. We have 2 armor smiths. So whenever a friendly minion takes damage, you gain 1 armor. Which includes the armor smith itself when the armor smith takes damage as well. So, which is useful because it has 4 health. So, as I was saying earlier about shield slam, if you can have 1 or 2 armor smiths out and start generating a lot of armor, the shield slam obviously will become a lot more potent, which is fantastic. 2 cruel taskmasters. You can use this to either buff up your own minions by dealing damage to them and giving them extra attack, which can be pretty useful, especially if you've got an armor smith on the board. But I sometimes use it for dealing 1 damage to an enemy minion. Say it's they've got a giant out and it's on full health. You deal 1 damage to it. Obviously you're going to give it 2 extra attack, but then you can use Execute to get rid of it. And then you've used a Cruel Taskmaster, which is a 2 cost, and an Execute to get rid of something that could be could have cost your opponent like 8 or 9 mana. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good indeed. I love the Cruel Taskmaster. It's a great card. 1 Ironbeak Owl, because you've got to have those silence. Great for getting rid of like Sludge Belchers, Taunt, and Death Rattle. Good for getting rid of Sylvanas Death Rattle. Anything with Death Rattle, basically. Ironbeak Owl is awesome for. We have an Unstable Ghoul for some early game kind of control. And because it deals 1 damage to all minions, having your armor smith out at the same time as the Unstable Ghoul is probably a good idea, because you'll get a bunch of extra armor as a result. Talking of extra armor, we have 2 shield blocks for a little bit of card draw. Using a shield block and a shield slam on turn 4 basically means you can get rid of anything that's likely to have been played at that point. Stuff like Chillwind Yeti, gone. And you get the you keep the armor after you've used the shield slam, and you draw a card as well with the shield block. So yeah, keeping your shield block and your shield slam for combos is probably a good idea, unless of course you got 2 early armor smiths and you've been generating a lot of armor anyway. We have 2 Acolyte of Pain. Now if you can get the Acolyte of Pain and the armor smiths out and the Unstable Ghoul, then you're going to have a great time, because it's going to mean lots of card draw, lots of armor, and it's going to be a real pain for your enemy to deal with. So that's always a nice combination. We have 3 cost mana. Big Game Hunter, because you never know when you're going to need one of these. There is only one in the deck, but because you've got 2 executes, it shouldn't be too bad. Because of the 2 executes, I'm not sure if this is 100% necessary, but it's nice to have it anyway, just in case. Because sometimes you don't get one of your executes, so Big Game Hunter might be necessary. Plus, execute relies on having your the minion that you want to kill be damaged, and whereas Big Game Hunter will take it out anyway. We have 2 Death's Bite. This is another great card. If you can combo the Death Rattle on this, you can then use that to for execute combos. Also, having this out whilst you have Acolyte of Pain or Armor Smiths, again, it's going to be really good. 1 Senjin Shieldmaster, because Tazdingo, it's a great card for 4 mana. And if you're up against a rush deck or an aggro deck, it might slow them down a little bit, which is pretty nice. Or if not, it might make them sacrifice some of their removal that then they won't be able to use on some of your bigger stuff. And talking of bigger stuff, we're going to start getting into the bigger stuff now at 5 mana. So we've got a little bit of removal in the form of Brawl. Great against aggro decks, because chances are you might only have 1 or 2 cards on the board if you're up against aggro, and they might have 5 or 6, in which case Brawl is fantastic because you get rid of almost all of them. Although, because it's random as to which one gets left behind, in my experience that's always the worst one, and it's always the one that you don't want left. We have 2 Sludge Belchers in this deck because Sludge Belchers are awesome. The one thing I have noticed about this deck is that there's no Loatheb. And I think I would be tempted to put a Loatheb in, depending on what you were coming up against, because Loatheb is such a great card, and it's so useful to have that battle cry with Loatheb. But yeah, so we've got 2 Sludge Belchers, great card, and almost every deck I've been playing has got Sludge Belchers in. We have a Sylvanas Windrunner, because Sylvanas is awesome. We have 1 Black Knight, or the Black Knight I should say, which gets rid of any taunt, especially useful against druids or paladins that bring out a Tyrian Fordring, because those classes seem to have taunts for days quite often. So it's a nice way of being able to get rid of those, and obviously can be used on Sludge Belchers and such. A Baron Geddon. Now, I don't normally play Baron Geddons, just because I don't think they're actually that useful. But it was revealed at BlizzCon that control warriors that have Baron Geddon and that play Baron Geddon have a higher chance to win than anything else, which is a bit unusual, but I'm going to go with it. And it's in this deck listing, so here it is. I guess it could be useful for removal of aggro decks, but by turn 7, yeah, turn 7 I'm not so sure that you're really going to be alive for very much longer anyway, so I don't know. It's in there. I guess you could combo it with Acolyte of Pain, I suppose, but obviously you're only going to get 2 draws out of that. I don't know. I guess it has its uses, but I'm not entirely convinced. We have 8 mana, a Grommash Helmscream, because it's an awesome card. It's got charge and enrages with 6 attacks. So turn 10 you can drop this, drop your Cruel Taskmaster to give it an extra 2 attack, giving it a total of 12 attack with charge. Great finisher. Great finisher, love it. Alternatively, if you don't have any means to trigger the enrage yourself, if you've got Baron Geddon, will the effect that Baron Geddon has will enrage but you won't necessarily be able to do it on that turn, which is a bit of a shame. But Death's Bite, deal 1 damage to all minions. That will trigger the Enrage as well, so that's always a possibility. You just have to remember what you've got and what combos you can do. Unstable Ghoul, if you get your Unstable Ghoul late, I guess you could use the Death Rattle of the Unstable Ghoul to trigger the Enrage. It's always a possibility. But I like that card, and I like the Cruel Taskmaster and the Grommash Helmscream combo. That's always good. Another 8 cost, we have Ragnaros the Firelord, because it's Rag, and it's pretty awesome. And if you're playing Control, chances are that your opponent doesn't have that many creatures on the board by the time you put this out. And then, last but not least, we have Alexstrasza. Set a hero's remaining health to 15. This can be really useful. I don't think, when I've been playing this kind of deck before, I think most of the time I end up using it on myself to come back and start winning again. But that's usually after a really long fight. Because most of the time I don't really want to put it on my opponents, because a lot of the time they're already below 15 health by the time I get to kind of turn 9 or 10 anyway. So yeah, it's not the most ideal. So I usually keep this in case I need to get back up to 15 health in case I get a little low. So that's the Balanced Control Warrior deck. As I said before, the link is in the description, so go and check it out, go and give it a thumbs up. The crafting cost, because of the so many legendaries, the crafting cost of this deck is over 11,000 dust. So if you don't have all these cards, it might take you a while to get them, but I think it's certainly worth it, and I have a lot of fun with these decks. Sometimes when you just get so much armor, I just cannot help but laugh to myself. So I'm having a lot of fun with this deck, so I suggest you try it out if you can. As per usual, if you make any videos using this deck, feel free to link them to me on Twitter. Let me know how you get on if you do play this deck, if you win, lose, draw, whatever. I'd like to know how you get on. But next week we might have some new cards to look at, because Goblins vs Gnomes is getting released, so look forward to that. Thanks very much for watching, and I shall see you next time.